says 7:30 to 9.
Give them an opportunity.
Thank you.
An
I
opportunity
think in due
to,
process, to share our concerns based on.
that's why we've said, if you have a comment, then
I do. I do.
make your
But you're
comment
gonna-
known.
Okay, thank you. Can I go and speak then?
You can speak from there.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. I'll just, I guess I'll speak from here. So, I'm actually here, that's from the property owner. I'm here, I'm not a resident, so I'm speaking here on behalf of the owner who just can't be here tonight. So, bear with me, I guess. I don't get the microphone so for some reason, so I will just speak from here and hopefully you can hear me. Okay, so I did have a signed signature form there, so if anybody's concerned. I'm here to speak on behalf of the owner of properties 283366 and 512319. As stated in the meeting in May 2023, this is not about the person who owns the land, Andrew Frizzle. Regarding this application to rezone those two properties, we have concerns about the planning board, the council, and/or the developer. Here. I'll type them out. And/or the developer and their failure to comply with several previous development agreements, municipal bylaws, and provincial legislation. We were baffled, as Eva had said, that the planning board and council could see no reason to deny the application for rezoning. I'll try to keep these comments short, but I do have 3 pages, so I don't know if I can read that in 3 minutes. The developer is currently non-conforming with the Miltonvale bylaws for 283325, and its adjacent lands they own 658,799, 458,190, 283317, and 283309. There are currently over 100+ complaints filed by more than half a dozen community residents from the surrounding area. Some of these complaints include non-compliance with the legally binding development agreement that he entered into with the municipality in 1999 and again in 2008. From our understanding, the municipality has yet to take action to enforce the bylaws and development agreement for the property under consideration, but has enforced bylaws and taken property owners to court on several other properties. In an email from the municipality on February 23rd, it was stated that council believes that the developer is committed to working with the municipality to improve the appearance of the property and bring the property into compliance with the new development agreement. There is zero evidence of a willingness to comply with the current bylaws or the 2 previous development agreements. What makes it different this time? Why has it not taken any action? And why is the municipality so agreeable about rezoning this property and entering into a 3rd development agreement? Examples of some of the conditions in the previous 2 development agreements include no parking of vehicles on the septic system. 2, no parking of vehicles adjacent to the house. 3, no parking of vehicles any closer to highway than the building line as established on an adjacent property. 4, maximum of 7 vehicles in the front yard. Tree planting required in designated areas. Number 6, parking areas shall be constructed with a stable surface that is treated to prevent the raising of dust. So far, the developer has not made any attempts to meet any of these legally binding conditions over the past 15 to 20 years. And you can drive by and see there's been no effort even leading up to this meeting. The proposed amendment states the development bylaw may be amended on application to apply the light industrial zone to lands determined to be unsuited for primary resources. And that's a really important name because this is what the whole rezoning is about. We asked what objective criteria the planning board uses to determine that the lands are unsuited for primary resource uses. The municipality told us that the criteria include the size of the property, soil type, and current use. The 2023 PEI soil survey, not so long ago, map clearly indicates that the soil is suitable for primary resource use, and the current use is a horse paddock, so the size must be suitable for primary resource use. When asked for details, the municipality has failed to provide objective evidence or a compelling case to substantiate its statement that the land is unsuited for primary resource use. In the minutes of November 8th, 2023, the planning board states, updating the future land use map to agree with the rezoning to industrial gives planning board the opportunity to review other amendments at this time, such amendments to help address the housing crisis. We have concerns about this assessment. How does the changing the future land use map and rezoning to these parcels to industrial help address the housing crisis? To your point about who wants to live in the area. Would an industrial zone not deter additional residents' homes from being added to the area? In July 2023, the planning board stated, and this is in their planning notes, it was best to keep restrictions as simple as possible and note that for residents living along Route 2, an arterial highway, there is an expectation of some noise. And it goes on to say, we have an hour, I think it's okay. Unless somebody else, I'll keep.
You can have my 3 minutes.
Thank you. Anybody else want to give me one? Thank you. Anybody else want to give me their time? Thank you. That's 6 more minutes. So it was noted that some residents who were complaining had moved to the area when the auto body was established and operating. The municipality has tried to have the property come into compliance over the years, and the developer has, over the years, purchased land adjacent to this original parcel. It was suggested paving the front area would be reduced dust. Planning board could not see a compelling reason to deny the application, especially if the cars could be screened from view and concerns of nearby residents addressed. Almost 100% of the residents, except for maybe one, have lived in the area for well over 10 to 30 years. These comments are dismissive of the residents' concerns and biased in favor of the developer. When it's stated that the municipality has tried to have the property come into compliance over the years, we can find no evidence of enforcement other than making the developer tear down a sandblasting building for which he erected without a building permit. We have concerns when the developer stated in their application that they do 20 to 25 major repairs a month and 15 to 20 minor repairs. Commercial vehicle turnaround is 60 to 120 days. And the planning board suggested that when there are lengthy delays for parts, that it may be possible for vehicles to be stored on their owners' properties. Really? Okay. I'm not going to have a piece of junk in my driveway when it's fixed. We're not in the business of auto body work, but suggesting that they can do that many major and minor repairs within a month with such a small workspace would seem overly stated. There are well over 120 vehicles, unauthorized vehicles parked on the 2 properties being considered for rezoning, and 3 other adjacent properties owned by the developer. This includes buses that have been there for over 10 years, completely burnt out vehicles, and I'm not sure what type of body work is required on the 20-plus tractor trailers. This is not a parts supply issue as stated by the developer. Since the public meeting 9 months ago in May 2023, Google Earth still shows that the vehicles, you can pass that around, there's some pictures there, but the vehicles are in the same spots 9 months later, and actually there's been more added. We have concerns about the developer and council repeatedly stating that rezoning will address parking issues and the unsightliness at the front of the property. Again, with over 120 vehicles, trailers, and other salvage have been accumulated on 3 properties that pertain to the rezoning, as well as the developer's adjacent properties. It has turned into a salvage yard. The developer's 2008 site plan, which is on that form, shows 2 customer parking spaces and 5 other spots in front of the property. And the 2024 plan doesn't speak to how many parking spaces would be up front or in the appended parcel. A development application, though, is supposed to have a parking plan. Again, we don't see the full site plan map that was submitted. A development application is supposed to have a parking plan, and this includes 1 parking spot per employee, a minimum of 2 for residential use and customer parking. This means that at least 10 to 12 parking spots are unavailable for vehicles ready for pickup. So, and then actually I have an image too of oversized vehicles, I didn't get that, but there's boats and tractor trailers and heavy equipment in the front of the property. I don't know how you fit those into a regular parking spot. In the developer's proposal, he states that entrance to PID 658799 would be via an extension of existing driveway from Route 2 onto 283325. The proposed entrance to 658799 is directly in line with where the developer stated his septic system was in 2008. And Google Earth shows that this alleged septic system currently has tractor trailers parked over it. You can see the environmental concerns here, so we ask that the municipality confirm the location of the developer's septic system. The municipality expressed concern over maintenance and soil and water quality, and water runoff to adjacent properties. The developer's response was that stormwater management was previously submitted. Changes have been made to reduce water that naturally flows to the west of the property. The creation of a berm will not increase stormwater quantities. This information was not provided to residents as part of the application to rezone. Around 2019, black sludge came from property ID 283325 property twice, right Andrew, twice, and flowed onto property 512319. We're not sure if the developer notified the Department of Environment as required under Section 19 of the Environment Protection Act of this discharge of contaminants. We have concerns about this, and for these reasons, we ask that the council request verified and documented septic system details and soil to be tested on 283325. to protect the current and future water systems of neighboring properties as part of this application to rezone. Property information also shows that there is a residential dwelling in the building of PA of 283325, which is actually not permitted even under commercial or light industrial zones. All potential projects with an environmental impact must be registered with the province to determine whether or not they will trigger the full provincial environmental assessment process. We also request that the developer outline and verify how they dispose of waste products and contaminants from the auto body work, as there doesn't seem to be a disposal unit on site. We have concerns about the non-conforming use of agricultural land. The developer states in his application to rezone that parcel 45819 would be regraded and returned to green space. The 45189 you don't hear much of, but that's a parcel at the front of the property by the road, where the trees were actually cut down. It's actually zoned agriculture, and so this use is currently non-conforming. This is not about returning it to agriculture use, but rather about complying with current zoning bylaws for agriculture. There's also a contradiction in statements, because he says it would be returned to green space, but the site plan submitted by the developer clearly shows the area as being a proposed parking area for customer vehicles ready for pickup. We have concerns that there is no evidence that the planning board or the developer took the residential use into consideration as part of the application to rezone. The property has a residential component which is non-conforming with both commercial and industrial bylaws. No building, this is in the bylaws, no building or part thereof is permitted to be used for residential purposes in commercial buildings and light industrial zones which store hazardous materials. I'm not an auto body pro, but I know that auto body shops typically have hazardous materials such as chemical hazards, automotive chemicals, toxic air pollutants emitted during painting operations, solvents, welding, etc. I'm almost done. We had expressed concerns about noise, dust, etc. There is a reference to a 40 by 60 structure to be built on the proposed extension of 283325. The municipality erroneously stated, concentrating all activities of the operation indoors will reduce the noise generated. There is currently no building approved or erected to reduce the dust and noise. Therefore, at this stage, the proposed development of a structure for sandblasting should not be given any weight in the decision to rezone the property to reduce the dust and noise. There is no guarantee that a permit will be requested, approved, financed, or built. Therefore, the requirement to reduce dust and noise cannot be resolved under this request to rezone. Furthermore, adding a structure to the appended property would take away from the parking, which is the reason for requesting this parcel to be rezoned in the first place. As elected officials, and I think there's a few of you in the room, council must consider residents' concerns and adhere to all responsibilities delegated to them. Here's what we see for them. 1, hold the developer accountable for the 1999 and 2008 legally binding development agreements, which both include several conditions. If the 2019 enforcement bylaws do not apply to those two development agreements because they were signed before then, the municipality will need to allocate its financial resources to the cost of reinforcement. Or 2, if the council decides to approve the application for rezoning without further due diligence, consideration of the facts, and over 100+ complaints by residents, it will more than likely need to present its case with IRAC, including why enforcement of the previous development agreements has never taken place. If, for some wild reason, a new development agreement is signed in 2024, the PA legislature in 2023 enacted significant amendments to the Planning Act to give municipalities more tools for bylaw enforcement. This includes fines of up to $100,000 for commercial entities, which is what the auto body shop is, who violate the Planning Act. And details, if you want to look further, are in the municipalities in the minutes from January 17, 2024. This is not about a simple change to zoning. Failure to comply with municipal and provincial legislation can become costly. As a member of the Miltonvale Council, the developer Andrew Frizzle should be fully aware of the importance of adhering to bylaws and the financial implications this entire process, including enforcement, has on the municipality's already limited resources. Thank you for the opportunity to share our concerns as soon as possible.
Thank you. Next. Steve.
My name is Steve Dickinson, and I'm just a resident down the road there. Moving forward, what I can see is I can see the council having to do this amendment to the bylaw, and that's simply to give this resident in the community a permit to be able to build his business that he's been here for the last longer than I've known, for sure. Going back, we'd probably be held in court in contempt of what we did a number of years ago in this same room. It was jam-packed full of people. And we told Mr. Frizzle that he had to tear down the building. And if he did that, we'd give him a permit to build a new one. Well, that permit was denied at that time. So going forward, the council, in my opinion, is giving this person the only way he can operate a building, expand the building, clean up the premises, by deeming it this way. Otherwise, my question is to the people, what do you want to do, shut him down? Tell him to go somewhere else with the business? Or how can he operate his business unless council does it the proper way that we have it? There's only one way we can do this, and it's the right way. And going forward, the council has made this decision. They voted upon this. They come to a meeting to get people's approval for a person in this day and age to try and make a little bit more money. And I know Andrew's been gone through ridicule from everybody in God's green earth. But in all fairness, I wouldn't want to clean up my yard neither, given the things. And talking about other equipment sitting in the backyard for the last 30 years, I could name people in this room right here today that their junk has been piled in the backyard for the last 20 years. Whether they're a farmer, whether they're construction, I don't care who they are. Are they allowed to do that? My question. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Can I say something?
Sure, yeah, the floor is open.
Thank you. So I'm Denise Miltonvale, and I've been a resident for over 50 years in Miltonvale Park. So we're going to amend and rezone this to allow someone to continue to have a mess, and there's been petitions, there's been refusal to permits twice before, one I was a part of, one I was not. And they continue to not follow the non-conforming. So what guarantee do we have if this is put into place that he is actually going to follow the regulations and abide by the municipality laws and bylaws that would be in effect? Because it hasn't happened since the business has been there. So why is it all of a sudden going to change now? So there's where my concerns are.
Anybody else?
I may have taken up 20 seconds asking a question, but I'd like to
Ask away.
Well, I have 4 short points. First, I have a criticism for that meeting that originally told Andrew to tear the building down. I think that was pretty nearsighted. And maybe if that hadn't happened, then we wouldn't be here tonight. That building was needed as part of the business. And I don't know if that wasn't discussed, but if you'd have given the guy a fine for what it cost to take the building down and moved on, and he promised not to put up a second building, we all would have been far better off for it. Second, fast forwarding today, we all know about the noise and the dust concerns. A dust collector's file in a closed building would certainly help. In my opinion, this can be done within the commercial use zoning that's in place now with perhaps publicly accepted minor changes. No need for light industry to accommodate this building. You're promised in the building years ago, and there was no discussion about changing the zoning then to do that. Third, the light industrial thing. Mr. Frizzle owns considerable land around the rest of the property, and this is land that's mostly agriculture and use and nature. Light industry for a couple of acres is a foot in the doorway. The lease is coming up in the riding stable behind, which Andrew owns. And what argument is there to be made against using what should then be a vacant horse barn and paddock area for non-agricultural use, or a zoning change to increase light industrial into that section? Fourth, the last point, most of it is driven by the extension of business he has building property in Alberton. You'd swear they weren't owned by the same people. There's not a blade of grass out of place in that property. The trucks are all lined up perfect. It's neat as a pin. You couldn't ask for a better neighbor there in Bradell. As the point was made, what can we expect with this zoning change to have some of the concerns addressed about? He's like me. I'm a pack rat, and so is he. Not that many years ago, I had in the city, and I'm in firms in the city, and I've had the city come by and talk to me and said, I was selling some older equipment up the road that was surplus. And the guy said, it's looking more like a used farm machinery business here than a farm. Clean it up. Our property is bordered on the back by van trailers, and the vehicles now are coming down the side boundary and just, our barns are still kind of hiding, but it'll only take a few more vehicles and there'll be a full view of our yard. And these are not vehicles that are there to have a fender replaced or something. There's old trucks, there's all sorts of stuff that gets dragged there. And I understand how, some opportunity in your park, and my yard is full of lost opportunities, and I'm starting to get rid of them. I've had to junk people come by and start throwing things away. I want to see some sort of guarantee that that will be cleaned up before I'll be happy about any of the proposals that we're talking about. Thanks.
Thank you. Betty?
I don't care, I'm standing over here.
All right, Dave, I just got a couple of questions. Betty Pryor, I live in the Valley. Some of you know, some of you don't. Just a couple of questions. Under section 8.2.1, under the official plan, that change that was made, it seems very related to the situation that we are in now for taking non-resource things and expanding it, I guess. So I just would like a clarification on that, because I'd hate to see that get watered down when we're trying to be, I think, still a resource place. 8.3 with the regulation for permitted uses, is that a typo in the new one that you have a 6.0 meters duplicated? You can look at it after there, it's just what it is. Now, because of this amendment and that which is directly related to a development application, does that mean that the decision